Hi, this is Kent Julian with KentJulian.com, and I wish you could have been with me when I picked up the phone and I started asking my mentor questions about classroom management. Now, let me get gut level honest with you. When I picked up the phone to call Don, I was not asking questions about classroom management. What I did is I picked up the phone and the conversation went something like this. Hey Don, I'm done. I am so burnt out working with students. I'm fried. I'm throwing in the towel, buddy. I'm done. Now, if you've been working with students for any length of time, I'm almost positive you've had the exact same feelings. There's been times where you said, I'm done. I am so burnt out. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. Well, today I want to give you the exact same gift Don gave me. Because this gift that he gave me, it revolutionized the way that I work with students, and it revolutionized what I did with classroom management. So what I'm going to do is give you that gift up front, because this video is a little bit longer than some of the other videos I've done. So I'm going to give you the gift up front so that you'll hang with me through the whole explanation of this gift. The gift that Don gave me then, and the gift that I want to give to you, is that I really learned from Don that teachability is a two-way street. Teachability is a two-way street. And by the end of this video, you'll understand a concept that I have implemented in every group, every student group I've worked with, that is the 4 fence posts of personal responsibility. This has totally changed the way that I do classroom management, or probably a better way to say it is classroom leadership. Now, if you've ever been to one of my presentations, either a presentation at an education conference or at an in-service or maybe a CSTO event, you've heard me talk about E+R=O. It's my favorite equation in the world. It's not original with me, it's original with a guy named W. Clement Stone, but this equation has changed my life personally, professionally, the way that I lead people. It's so impactful to me that I actually have wristbands, and I wear these wristbands everywhere I go so that I'll keep at the front of my mind E+R=O. And again, if you've ever heard a presentation of mine, you've heard me challenge people and educators, don't be normal. Don't do what everybody else does. Who wants to be normal anyway? Normal people don't make history. Normal people don't impact people's lives. So don't be normal. Do the opposite of normal. And what normal people do is they don't buy into E+R=O, they buy into E=O. E stands for events, O stands for outcome. And so what they say is, whatever event you have in your life, that's going to equal the outcome you experience. So a good event, good outcome. Bad event or a negative event, negative outcome. And so it's not hard to understand why people who embrace E=O don't experience authentic, true success in their lives. And so what we want to do as educators, but not only as educators, for ourselves, for our students, is teach them E+R=O. E stands for the events in our life, plus the one thing we're 100% in control of, our response equals the outcome. And if we control our response, then no matter what the event is, it can be a good event or it can be a bad event. No matter what happens to us, if we respond correctly, we can turn that into a positive outcome in our lives. E+R=O. Events plus our response equals the outcome. So with that in mind, Don started teaching me that teachability is a two-way street. And he basically said, Kent, what you're trying to do is you're trying to own the growth and the learning and the development of students. You're taking that responsibility on, and it's not your responsibility. It's not your role. Growth and development and learning, that's the student's role. And in fact, when you take that role, you're stealing the greatest gift you can give them, which is teaching them E+R=O. Don't take that role away from them. Let them own that. But instead, what you want to do is own the role that you need to own, and that is you need to cultivate an environment in the classroom or in the group that you're leading that is conducive to growth and development and learning. Let the students own that and let them take 100% responsibility for that, and you create an environment that helps them do that like gangbusters. That was so revolutionary to me. I mean, for some of the teachers watching this video, you're probably already doing that, and this is just a good reminder to keep doing it. But for others that were in the same situation I was in, wow, that opened up a whole new idea for me. And so one of the ways, let me tell you how I practically have done this, and this one idea has meant so much to my classroom management style. And to be honest, classroom management, I don't even like that term, because we manage things, we lead people. So I don't want to try to manage my class, I want to lead my class. I don't want to try to manage the growth and development and learning. I want to lead it. I want to cultivate an environment where they pursue it. And so what I used to do is in the groups that I led, focused on rules. This is just a practical outworking of this E+R=O. I used to focus on rules, but if you've been in education for any amount of time, you know that at the beginning of the year, you can have 10 rules for your classroom, and by the end of the year, you have 20 rules. Why? Because you work with creative students. Your students will think of 10 rules that you haven't even thought of to break. And so they'll break those rules, and next year you'll have 20 rules. And if you stay in long enough, by the time you retire, you will have 1,001 rules not to break in your classroom. So what I started doing was stop focusing on rules, and I started focusing on expectations. It's not that we didn't have rules. We had rules, but I would go over them one time at the beginning of the year with my group, and then we focused the rest of the year on expectations. And the best way I knew how to articulate this, and I was working with teenagers, middle school and high schoolers, that's who I still work with, but you can still do this in an age-appropriate level at any grade that you work with. You just have to make it age-appropriate. Was we set up 4 fence posts of 100% responsibility. We focused on the R. We knew that that students can't control the E's. They can't control what's happening in their home. They can't control if somebody picks on them. They can't control if they have learning challenges. All they can control is their response to those events. So let's focus on the response areas. And we picked the 4 that we know every student can be 100% responsible for. Their attitudes, their actions, their associations, who they choose to hang out with and spend time with, and their articulation, what they choose to say. And in every group that I've ever led, we say, we're going to hold you 100% accountable. We're going to make you 100% responsible for these 4 areas. And the cool thing about explaining this is you can explain the difference between E+R=O and the difference between E=O, those 2 mindsets. But the other thing that's so great is that it became real clear that if students would take 100% responsibility for their attitudes, their actions, their associations, and their articulation, that these fence posts would continue to grow. In other words, they would continue to spread out, that students would have more freedom, more opportunities, more things coming their way because we could depend on them. And we would say, hey, the reason you're getting this opportunity, the reason this isn't just special treatment because I like you, it's because you're living E+R=O. And in the same way, for those students who chose not to live E+R=O, for those students who chose not to be 100% responsible for their attitudes, actions, articulations, and associations, for those students who chose to make excuses, Those students who chose to break these fence posts, those fence posts began to shrink. And I could clearly articulate to them why they didn't have as many opportunities or didn't have as many privileges as other students. And to me, this isn't classroom management, this is classroom leadership. Because I'm not managing people, I manage things, but I lead people. So there you have it. That's the gift that my mentor gave me about classroom management. He basically, again, to summarize, said, teachability is a two-way street. You got to allow students to own their learning, their growth, and their development. And you want to cultivate an environment that's conducive for them to own their learning, their growth, and their development. You want to cultivate an E+R equals O environment. You want to make sure that you're leading your students, not just managing their behavior. I hope this idea helps you in your classroom leadership as you continue to work with students. And I wrap up this video the way that I wrap up every email and every video I ever do for educators, with a big thank you for doing what you're doing, because what you're doing in the lives of students really matters.